Your body stores power in 3 Taoist portals you may not even know exist. Essence in the lower belly, energy in the chest, spirit in the skull. The hidden vitality that sustains real presence throughout the entire day, yet leaks away for most people because they don't know where these centers are or how to organize them. You can feel inner strength, but it doesn't turn into concrete action. Motivation lasts a few minutes, impulses fade before any movement is completed, and a diffuse fatigue lingers that no amount of rest fully dissolves. When the dantians remain open without containment, energy scatters into spikes of mental urgency, unexplained mood swings, and a presence that vanishes exactly when you need it most. You will locate each portal through signals the body itself emits: internal warmth, tangible density, a breath that naturally drops to the base without effort. There is a precise moment in this practice when the lower abdomen warms from within. The diaphragm releases its guard, and the gaze finds focus without rigidity. That moment only happens when you touch the 3 centers in the correct sequence. Leaving this content before reaching it means continuing to confuse agitation with power, relying on external stimulation to function, and losing inner density every time urgency passes. The hidden vitality that sustains your being begins to reveal itself now. The dantians are physical territories in the human body where vitality can be contained rather than dispersed. The lower dantian sits internally, about 3 fingers below the navel, holding Jing, the essence that anchors presence and sustains deep reserves. The middle dantian lives at the center of the sternum, between the nipples, refining Qi, the energy that moves decision and processes emotion without exploding or freezing. The upper dantian rests behind the point between the eyebrows, connected to the back of the neck and the palate, guiding Shen, the spirit that directs attention without mental rigidity. Classical Taoist alchemy treated these centers as internal furnaces where raw material is transformed into refined vitality, a process known as needin, inner cultivation. When the practitioner learned to seal the fire in the lower belly, nourish the flame in the chest, and clarify the light in the skull, the body stopped depending on external stimulation to function and began generating fuel from its own substance. This knowledge was never esoteric. It was physiological from the very beginning, mapping how internal pressure, breathing, and tone altered the available state of the body. The mechanism works like this. When the lower dantian remains open, the breath doesn't fully descend, pelvic floor tone weakens, and essence leaks out as sexual urgency, diffuse anxiety, or exhaustion with no clear cause. When the middle dantian is disorganized, the diaphragm locks into a defensive position. The solar plexus stays armed, and any emotion turns into either tightness in the chest or uncontrolled outbursts. When the upper dantian lacks an axis, the gaze loses focus. The mind accelerates without producing clarity, and spirit becomes an idea instead of an embodied direction. Recent research on heart coherence shows that conscious pressure at the center of the chest alters heart rate variability, signaling to the nervous system that danger has passed and that the organism can refine rather than react. Polyvagal theory reveals that deep breathing activates the ventral branch of the vagus nerve, shutting down chronic alert and allowing the body to sustain presence without burning through reserves. These findings echo what Taoist masters understood centuries ago. Containment changes internal chemistry, and internal chemistry reshapes what we call will, focus, or personal power. This matters now because you have likely tried meditation, therapy, supplements, or various spiritual practices, yet none of them touched the somatic root of this dispersion, the body's inability to hold charge without collapsing or accelerating. Someone lived exactly this pattern for years. feeling inner power that never became stable presence, until discovering the 3 portals and learning how to organize them consciously. What happened to that person will illuminate how essence, energy, and spirit stop being concepts and become states you can verify directly in your own body. Irene had worked as a social worker for 20 years, listening to other people's pain while carrying her own without being able to touch it. At 45, she woke up tired even after sleeping 8 hours. Her chest tightened in meetings with no real threat, and she lost patience with her children in moments where calm used to come naturally. Her voice sounded either weak or overly harsh. Important decisions left her swinging between urgency and paralysis, and she could feel inner strength but watched it evaporate before sustaining any concrete movement. Her body showed precise signs: breathing that never dropped below the ribs, a diaphragm locked in a permanent defensive position, weights in the lower belly with no sense of grounding, chronic tension in the solar plexus that made her sleep curled inward. Energy came in spikes, moments when Irene felt driven to change everything, but those impulses dissolved within minutes, leaving behind exhaustion that no rest could fully undo. People called her strong, but inside, Irene knew she was living on the edge of either collapsing or accelerating out of control. She tried cognitive therapy for 2 years and identified distorted thoughts, but her body kept reacting the same way. She practiced yoga regularly, yet stretching never reached the deep rigidity that kept her diaphragm armed. She took magnesium, ashwagandha, tryptophan, but the mood swings persisted because the root wasn't isolated chemistry. It was the body's inability to hold charge without collapsing. Nothing explained why she felt emptiness in her chest, even when life was objectively stable. A co-worker who had gone through severe burnout told Irene about an ancient Taoist alchemy text that had completely changed her relationship with her own body. She didn't talk about self-help or quick techniques. She spoke about a somatic map that showed where human vitality can be held instead of dispersed. Irene asked for the name of the book, found a commented translation of classical texts on Needham, and began reading with skepticism that slowly gave way to visceral recognition on every page. In her first practical attempt, she brought her attention to a point about 3 fingers below the navel, internally, and breathed as if the air needed to drop all the way to the base of the pelvis. In the first few minutes, there was only restlessness and the urge to stop. But when she kept the breath low long enough, the lower belly generated a dense warmth, an inner gravity she had never felt before, as if her body were finally finding ground. The breath dropped effortlessly for the first time in years. The diaphragm softened slightly, and Irene realized she was beginning to contain instead of leak. What she felt in that moment, you will experience now in your own body. Bring your attention to a point about 3 fingers below the navel, internally, as if you were touching a place inside the pelvis, not on the surface of the skin. Place the palm of your right hand over this area and feel the warmth moving through the abdominal wall. Inhale deeply and guide the breath all the way down, as if the air needed to reach the base of the pelvic floor, filling the lower belly before it fills the chest. This reversal of the automatic high breathing pattern shuts down chronic alert and allows the lower dantian to begin retaining instead of dispersing. Keep the breath low for 3 slow cycles, without counting time, simply feeling the abdomen expand forward and sideways as the air descends. Notice whether the lower belly begins to generate subtle warmth, an inner density that wasn't there before. This warmth is the first sign that essence is being held instead of leaking out as mental urgency or diffuse fatigue. If the area stays cool or tense, don't force it. Just continue breathing low and allow the body to respond at its own pace. Now add a gentle, conscious micropressure. Lightly press your palm into the 0.3 fingers below the navel as you inhale deeply, as if you were guiding the air into this portal. As you exhale, release the pressure, but keep your attention anchored in the same place. Repeat this 5 times, creating a rhythm where external pressure teaches the organism to generate internal pressure, sealing the center instead of leaving it open. You may feel a subtle pulse, a light vibration, or simply a stronger sense of presence in this area, as if the belly had gained weight without gaining tension. When the lower dantian becomes organized, the breath drops effortlessly. The pelvic floor gains tone without rigidity, and a sense of ground spreads through the entire body. Will is no longer a fleeting impulse. It becomes real support, something that can move through resistance without collapsing. If you notice that the mind stays accelerated even with the breath low, it means essence alone is not enough when emotional energy remains disorganized in the chest. The second portal needs to be activated. Move your attention to the exact center of the sternum, between the nipples. Place your left hand over this point and apply gentle pressure as you inhale. But now guide the expansion into the sides of the ribs, not forward. The chest should widen as if the rib cage were opening laterally, creating inner space without puffing the chest out. This decompresses a diaphragm that has been locked in a defensive position ever since the body learned to protect itself emotionally through rigidity. Exhale slowly while keeping the pressure at the center of the sternum, and notice whether the solar plexus just below the chest begins to soften its guard. Many people feel tightness in this area release for the first time in years when the middle dantian is contacted with the correct pressure and breath. Repeat this cycle 6 times. An inhale that expands the ribs sideways, an exhale that releases tension in the solar plexus. The warmth you felt in the belly may now rise into the center of the chest, creating coherence between the 2 portals. When the middle dantian refines energy, emotions stop swinging between explosion and shutdown. The body learns how to metabolize feeling without turning it into chronic tightness or uncontrolled discharge. You may notice your voice gaining body, decisions becoming clearer, and presence stabilizing without reliance on external stimulation. Before activating the third portal, you need to understand what happened to Irene after that first moment of real containment. Irene practiced daily for 3 weeks, learning how to seal each dantian before starting her day. At first, the practice lasted 15 minutes and required conscious effort. But after 10 days, the body began to respond automatically, as if recognizing an ancient pattern it had forgotten. The breath started to drop with ease. The diaphragm released the chronic tension that had kept her chest armored. The lower belly generated a stable warmth she could feel for hours. Her voice changed, gained density, and people around her began to notice that Irene seemed more present, less reactive. Concrete changes showed up in daily life. Decisions that once left her oscillating between urgency and paralysis were now made with clean clarity, without needing external validation or adrenaline spikes to push through resistance. Libido returned in a steady way, not in erratic peaks, and she realized she could sustain intimacy without automatically pulling back. The unexplained fatigue that had followed her for years was replaced by a constant vitality that did not depend on coffee, supplements, or external stimulation. Irene understood that the problem had never been a lack of power, but the body's inability to retain what was already there. What she felt over those weeks is exactly what you are beginning to notice now in the first 2 portals. Essence sealed in the belly, energy refined in the chest. Only the third center remains, to orient the spirit without mental rigidity. When that happens, Hidden vitality becomes sustained presence that carries you through the entire day. Bring your attention to the point between the eyebrows, but do not focus on the skin. Direct it inward, as if you were touching a space behind the forehead that connects with the back of the neck and the palate. Relax the tongue and let the tip rest gently against the roof of the mouth, just behind the upper teeth. Lightly lengthen the back of the neck without forcing, as if the top of the skull were being lifted by an invisible thread. Keep the gaze soft, with no tension in the eyes, resting on a point in front of you without fixing into rigidity. Inhale slowly through the nose and direct your attention to the upper dantian, sensing the breath as if it were circulating inside the skull. Exhale through slightly parted lips, releasing any tension in the jaw, the temples, or the forehead. Repeat this 4 times, noticing whether the gaze stabilizes. The mind slows down without losing clarity, and a sense of direction appears without effort. When the upper dantian organizes, thinking stops being a whirlpool and becomes clean focus that guides action. Now integrate the 3 portals into a single conscious breath. Inhale through the nose, guiding the air down to the lower dantian, feeling the lower belly warm from within. Hold the breath briefly as the ribs expand sideways, activating the middle dantian. Exhale slowly while lengthening the back of the neck and stabilizing the gaze, touching the upper dantian. Repeat this full sequence 3 times, creating a circuit where essence in the belly feeds energy in the chest, and energy in the chest orients spirit in the skull. When the 3 dantians are organized, the body stops leaking vitality and begins generating inner density that sustains presence for hours, not minutes. Will turns into concrete action, emotion becomes fuel instead of reaction, and spirituality stops being an idea and becomes an embodied state. The core practice is complete, and now you will seal this transformation in your own somatic field. The breath that now descends effortlessly to the base of the pelvis is the physical marker that the 3 portals have begun to organize. Inner warmth in the lower belly, a chest that expands sideways without tightening, and a gaze that holds focus without mental rigidity are signs that essence, energy, and spirit are being retained instead of dispersed. Your body has just learned a new somatic configuration, and this configuration needs to be anchored so you can access it again whenever dispersion threatens to return. Lightly touch the 3 points in sequence: belly, sternum, between the eyebrows. Press each one for 2 seconds while breathing deeply, creating a signal gesture that the organism will recognize as a command for containment. This touch can be done discreetly in any context: seated in a meeting, standing in traffic, lying down before sleep. It requires no special time or space, only the intention to reactivate the dantians when vitality starts leaking again. When you feel the mind accelerating without clarity, the chest tightening for no reason, or diffuse fatigue returning, pause for 30 seconds. Touch the 3 portals in sequence while breathing low and repeat internally: essence sealed, energy refined, spirit directed. This protocol turns dispersion into containment instantly, reminding the body that it already knows how to hold instead of leak. Use this daily during the first days until the pattern integrates fully. The hidden vitality that sustains your being no longer needs to be sought outside. It only needs to be organized within, through the 3 Taoist portals you now recognize in your own body. You now sustain 3 organized Taoist portals within your body, and this changes how essence, energy, and spirit circulate throughout the day. The breath that once got stuck in the chest now drops to the base with ease. The solar plexus that stayed armed begins to soften its guard. The gaze finds direction without mental rigidity. Small decisions that once required spikes of urgency now flow with clean clarity, and the presence that used to dissolve in minutes now holds for hours. This is not temporary motivation. It is somatic reorganization that alters inner density and the capacity to retain vitality instead of leaking it through constant reaction. The Dantians are only the beginning of a much broader map of internal cultivation developed by the Taoist tradition over thousands of years. Microcosmic circulation, the alchemical refinement of Jing into Qi, the transmutation of Qi into Shen, practices that deepen containment and transform the body into a field of continuous generation rather than external dependence. Each layer reveals greater precision in how vitality can be stored, refined, and consciously directed to sustain presence that lasts for years, not just days. Damo Mitchell wrote, "The body is not a vehicle for the spirit. It is the laboratory where spirit takes form." The hidden vitality you have just organized through the 3 portals is exactly this embodied alchemy, where essence refines into energy, energy transmutes into consciousness, and consciousness becomes embodied presence that no longer needs to be sought outside. God or Source was never separate from the human body, but inscribed within it as latent potential, waiting for conscious organization to manifest as real density instead of an empty concept. If this content resonated in your body, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications to continue receiving practices that integrate ancient wisdom and somatic neuroscience at this depth. Sharing this video allows more people to access knowledge that unites modern science and millennial traditions without superficiality. Consider becoming a channel member to support the continuity of this work of deep transformation. Leave in the comments, "I organize the 3 portals of my body, and vitality no longer leaks." By doing this, you anchor externally what has just happened internally, creating a somatic witness to the transformation your body recognizes as real. If you want to continue this journey of internal reorganization, click the video appearing on the screen now. What you call emptiness in the chest was always a disorganized portal, waiting for you to learn how to contain instead of disperse.